Hi, I am Gerald and I am 32 years old. I am working as a supervisor in a manufacturing center. We're in the business of manufacturing ship parts and equipment, dealing with heavy machinery, welding, and other manufacturing functions daily. I rejoined the manufacturing center 6 months after I left it. Initially, I started off as a welder in the manufacturing center. Working in this manufacturing firm then wasn't as safe as it is now. There were no proper safety protocols or measures for employees, and I had to weld metal in confined spaces, which significantly increased the risk of getting burns. My fellow welders and I reached out to the management a lot of times, but no improvements were made. After a few close calls and some burns, I decided to quit the job. My wife, Teresa, wasn't too thrilled about me quitting my job. She was furious, and we had a blowout when I told her that I had left the job. I remember the day when I told her all about it. I came back home and she was sitting on the couch watching TV. I went up to her and sat right next to her. I told her about how unsafe and stressful the job was, and that I had quit my job. She snapped at me as soon as heard about it. The news infuriated her and she went off the rails. We had a big fight. "Hey honey, I need to talk to you about something." "Oh, you're back. I didn't hear you come in. You're home early today." "Yes, well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about." "What is it?" "So you know how stressful my job has been lately?" "Yes." "And it's been very dangerous welding metals." "Yes, what about it?" "So I've quit the job." "What?" "I've resigned from my job. It was getting too stressful and dangerous." "You've quit your job? What were you thinking?" "I know you're worried, but I'll find a new job and it's going to be okay. Trust me." "You think that it's that easy to get a new job? What are we going to do about the bills if you don't get the job?" "We have some savings, right? We can use that until I get a new job." "You're planning to use our savings? What's wrong with you?" "I know you're upset and I understand what's going on in your mind. But one of the workers yesterday almost set himself on fire, accidentally. Fortunately, there were other people around to alert him. He was welding and he didn't notice that he had a can of polish right beside him. The polishes we use are highly flammable. We work in such a confined space that it's not safe to weld metals. Plus, it has been really stressful for me lately. I have to work 9 hours a day, sometimes more. So I quit. I'll find a new job and everything will be fine." "You're so dumb, Gerald. How could you quit your job just like that? We have bills to pay. We have to renovate the house. And the money we're saving is to buy a new car, and now you're planning to use it. I know it'll be tough to manage, but I can't risk my life for a welding job. I should find a new place to work before something tragic happens." You leaving your job is the very tragic thing we've been trying to avoid. How could you do it without talking to me? "Teresa, why are you so worried about the job? It was a dangerous job and could have possibly hurt me. You don't seem to be worried about me at all." "That's exactly what I am thinking about you, Gerald. You have a family. I don't work and we need money to pay bills. How could you be so selfish?" "I am not being selfish. I just did what was necessary. I've already experienced second-degree burns before, and as more people are joining, the risk of something going wrong is exponentially increasing. If someone accidentally started a fire where we work, it could end up taking the lives of all the men who work there, including me." "You're just so full of yourself. You only think about yourself. That's all you ever do." "You know what? I thought you'd support my decision to quit the job. I thought you cared about me more than money." "You're too dumb to understand what I am saying. You know what? I am not having this conversation with you. You're too selfish to understand what I am saying." "Fine. If you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. I thought you'd understand why I did what I did. But I was wrong." I got up and left. I went to the bedroom. I was surprised to see how she reacted. She knew I'd already been hurt on the job, and she still doesn't understand how stressful and dangerous the job was. I'd never let her take up a job that could possibly lead to physical harm, yet she was not concerned about me. All she could see was that I didn't have a job and now I won't bring in any money to the household. When I quit the job, I was pretty sure that I'd get a new job at a better place. I've been working in manufacturing centers for 7 years now. With my experience, I could easily get a job somewhere else, where it was less dangerous to work. It could take time, but we had our savings for times like these. But she didn't think that way. If looking out for my safety was being selfish, then that's what I was. It had only been 3 days since I left the job and I was applying for a new job. There were a lot of vacancies, and usually, in our line of work, the recruiting process could take up to a week or so. The documentation, scrutiny of work experience, the hiring process, everything collectively takes at least a week, and I had already planned our expenses a month ahead if I didn't get a job. But that wasn't most likely to happen. It had not even been a week when Teresa thought it was a good idea to pick up a fight over it. I was sitting on my couch, checking the newspaper for job advertisements, and that's when Teresa came out of nowhere and snapped at me. "Hey, don't you have anything better to do?" "What do you mean?" "You just sit in the house all day and do nothing. You said you'd get a job easily. Doesn't seem like it. Chill." "I was just going through the newspaper to look for jobs. You don't have to come up to me like that and yell at me. Don't you dare talk to me in that tone. You're the reason we're in this mess in the first place." "What mess are you talking about? It's only been 3 days since I quit the job, and in case you don't know, it takes time to find a new job. It's not like people are dying to hire me." "Exactly. You should have thought of that before you left the job. I don't think you're going to find a new job anytime soon, and the money we saved for our car would soon vanish into thin air, thanks to you." "Listen, Teresa. I don't want to have this conversation with you all over again. The least you could do is give me some time to figure things out. I'd find a job only if you don't dance around my head all the time. I should have known better. You're nothing but a jobless wreck. My father was right about you. I should have never married you." Hey, where is all of this coming from? I know you're upset that I quit my job, but you don't have to be so mean about it. I already told you I am trying, and I'd eventually find a new job. Well, we got bills to pay and they're piling up. I told you we can use the money from our savings to pay the bill for at least 2 to 3 months. I know we saved it to buy a new car, but not everything goes as planned, does it? You're the one to say. Everything was going fine until you decided to chicken out and quit your job. You're miserable. How did I get stuck with you? Well, I feel like I am the one, stuck with a partner who doesn't care about me. All you can ever think about is money. How dare you say that? I've done nothing but sacrifice my life to make sure this marriage works. I left the comfort of my home to be with you. My dad isn't very rich, but he is still better than you. Unlike me, Mom never had to worry about her future because she married someone like my dad. And here I am, stuck with you. Well, if you feel that way, maybe you should go back to your parents' house. You're not of much help either. Maybe I will. Well, you definitely should if you feel that way. You're just hopeless. Teresa dashed out of the living room angrily. All I needed was some time to find a new job, but she was always ready to come at me. Things were starting to get ugly. We were already having fights before I quit my job, but now she was always ready to ridicule me. 2 weeks later, I managed to find a new job at a different manufacturing firm, but the paycheck was less than the previous job. I thought maybe getting a job would make Teresa happy, but that didn't happen. As soon as I told her that the paycheck was less, she went mad. She kept going on about how I should have never quit my job. I tried to explain to her that it wasn't safe for me to stick to my last job, but nothing went inside her thick skull. We kept fighting every day, and eventually, 2 months later, we decided to end our marriage. Teresa filed for divorce and I accepted. We had no kids, we were living in a rented home, and the decision of separating was mutual, so our divorce formalities didn't take long. It took 3 months to finalize the divorce. Teresa moved back to her parents' home. Although I did feel sad after she left me, I knew it was inevitable. The fights were only getting uglier. But there was a part of me that kept on telling me that it was all my fault. If I hadn't quit my job, Teresa would have stayed. I kept on blaming myself for everything that happened between me and Teresa. After a month or so, one of the neighbors, Roger, came to my house to check up on me. We sat in the living room and had some beer. I told her everything about how things got super ugly between me and Teresa after I left my job. I also told him that I felt guilty about quitting my job and blamed myself for our divorce. We talked for a while and then he told me something that just broke my heart. His words struck me like lightning. He told me that Teresa was having an affair behind my back, and since we were not together anymore, he thought that it would be safe to tell me all about it now. "Hey Gerald, I've been wanting to tell you something about." "Go ahead, what is it?" "I don't know how to say this and I don't know if you'll believe me, but I think you should know all about it." "Hey, enough with the suspense, Roger, please, just tell me what it is." "I want you to stay calm when I tell you this. I promise." "Teresa was having an affair when you guys were still together." "What? What are you talking about?" "So my wife and the other ladies in our neighborhood know all about it. My wife told me that Teresa had been talking to one of her college mates and they used to meet secretly. What? Who? I don't know who. But I've seen a man enter your house a few times when you went to work. Even my son has seen the same man go to your house a few times. I didn't know who he was or why he used to visit your house. But considering what my wife told me and the strange man visiting Teresa when you're not home, I think it's safe to say that she was having an affair. Also, to top it off, since you guys went through a divorce, I think it's pretty evident now. I have no idea what you're talking about. When did all of this happen? Well, you wouldn't know it. The strange man only visited your house when you were not around. My wife tells me that some of the other people who live in our neighborhood have seen Teresa and that man hanging out together after the divorce. I think that quitting your job isn't the only reason that led to your divorce. I don't know what to say. How could Teresa do this to me? I know that you're upset, but I need you to stay calm. Don't do anything stupid. I came here to check up on you, but when I heard you blaming yourself for everything, I couldn't help but tell you all about this. How did I never know? I never felt suspicious of anything. I wouldn't have ever imagined that Teresa was seeing another man behind my back. I know, Gerald. I know you feel like you've been betrayed and you wouldn't be wrong if you feel that way. But what's happened has happened. There's nothing you can do now to fix it. So I'd suggest you let it go and move forward in your life. Teresa and you are no longer together, so you should now focus on yourself. Let Teresa live her life and you live yours. I understand, Roger. Thanks for letting me know. Well, I don't have anything else to say to you, but if you ever feel like talking to someone, you can always come up to me. We're not just neighbors, Gerald. We're also friends. My son loves to be around you and my wife cares about you, so if you ever feel lonely, you can always come to our house. I know you're going through a tough time, but we're here for you. Thanks, Roger. You're a good man. We finished our beer and Roger left. I was still in disbelief that Teresa could do something like this. All I could think about was how Teresa could do this to me. I stayed up all night thinking about everything Roger had said. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I decided to go to Teresa's parents' house and confront her about all of this. I took a day off from work and I went to her parents' home. I knocked on the door and Teresa opened the door. She was shocked to see me. I asked her if I could come in and she said yes. She made coffee for us and we sat in the living room. She asked me how I was and I told her everything was fine. I asked her if her parents were home and she told me that her dad had gone to work and her mother had gone to her sister's house. I knew it was the right time to ask her about everything since her parents were not home. I mustered up all my courage and told her what Roger told me. Teresa, I wanted to talk to you about something. Go ahead. Roger came home yesterday and he told me that a strange man used to visit our house when I went to work, and his wife told him that you were seeing one of your college mates behind my back. I didn't want to believe him, but I had to talk to you about this. Is this all true? Gerald, I wanted to tell you about Chris. So it's true then? Yes, it is. Look, both of us knew our marriage was not working, and we both knew somewhere deep inside our hearts that someday we would have to leave each other for good. But you could have told me about everything. You could have told me that you fell out of love and were seeing someone else. How could I? We were still married, Gerald. You left me all alone and let me think that I was the reason for our separation. I blamed myself for letting you go when the truth was, you wanted to be with someone else. How could you do this to me, Teresa? I loved you. It wasn't just Chris. We were just not meant to be together. We were having fights and things were only getting worse. Marriages have fights, Teresa. It's natural. We could have worked everything out together, but you wanted to be with Chris, and here I was, putting it all on me, thinking that quitting my job was what drove us to get a divorce. I was beating myself for letting you go. You could have told me about everything, but you only looked out for your happiness, didn't you? It's not fair. My happiness? Just like you quit your job for your happiness? Isn't it the same? No, it isn't. How could it be? I didn't quit my job because I was unhappy. I quit it because it was too stressful and dangerous. I could have gotten hurt, or maybe even lost my life if I worked there any longer. I did what I did because I had no choice. Oh, please quit playing the victim here for a moment, will you? Ever since I married, all I've done is sacrifice everything for you. Chris is twice the man you could ever be. He has a high-paying job and he takes care of me. We'll soon be getting married, and I would never have to live miserably like I used to when I was with you. Look at yourself, Gerald. You work in a factory. You're a welder. I could never be happy with you. Now, if you finish the coffee, I want you to leave. You know what? I hope Chris is a good man and he keeps you happy. But if he isn't, then I hope the Lord gives you the strength to go through all the misery and regret. I'll be happy with Chris. Now please, can you leave? Please don't ever bother again to come and meet me. We're done. I left the house and I went to a nearby bar. I called Roger and I told him that I needed to talk to him. Roger left his work and met me in the bar. By the time he got to the bar, I had already had 3 drinks and was already a little tipsy. As soon as he came, I hugged him and I cried. He tried to calm me down, but I cried more. The things Teresa said struck my heart like a knife. Hearing her say all those things about me and how she was going to marry Chris broke my heart. Roger asked me what had happened and I told him about everything. I told him about how I visited Teresa to confront her about seeing another man behind my back and told him everything she had said. He tried his best to console me, but I wasn't in my senses. He told me to move on and take care of myself. We had a couple of more drinks and then he dropped me home. He asked me if I wanted to spend the night at his house, but I refused. I told him that I wanted to be alone for a while. He respected it. He dropped me home and left. I cried all night thinking about everything. For an entire week, I couldn't get over everything Teresa had said. I went to work every day. I came home and all I could think about was her. A couple of days later, I decided that I would leave the house and go back to my parents' home. There were a lot of memories of Teresa and me associated with the house. Every time I looked around the house, I would only think of Teresa and how it was when we were together. So I packed up all my stuff, bid farewell to Roger and the other neighbors, and I went back to my parents' house. My parents' house is in the countryside. Both my parents passed away a few years back, and the house was empty. I decided that I would find a job and stay there for a while. After I unpacked everything and settled, I went out to look for a job and I got one at a hardware store. They needed a store supervisor and I checked out all the things they were looking for in a candidate. The paycheck was less, but I didn't care. I only had to take care of myself and it was enough for me. I started working there. A few months passed by and I was starting to heal. I met some of my childhood friends and relatives there. Life in the countryside was peaceful, unlike the rush in the city. I was starting to like it. It had only been 2 months since I moved to the countryside when my gorgeous ex-boss, Gloria, showed up at the hardware store. I was stocking items at the store when I saw a lady entering the store and coming up to me. As she got closer, I realized that it was my ex-boss. She came up to me and told me that she wanted to talk to me. I was too stunned to realize what was happening. My ex-boss was standing right in front of me and she was looking gorgeous. She was wearing a gray sweater, black trousers, and a black overcoat. Gloria was the area head of the manufacturing firm. She was responsible for supervising and managing 6 manufacturing centers, including the one that I used to work in. She visited each manufacturing center 4 to 5 times a month. We used to talk whenever she used to visit. We were good friends. She joined the company 2 years after me and I was the one who briefed her about how everything worked when she first came to the manufacturing center. We became friends and we have known each other since then. She snapped her fingers right in front of my face and I snapped back to reality. As soon as I came to my senses, I asked her what she was doing there, and she told me that she had come to meet me. She told me she wanted to talk to me. So we went to a nearby diner. We ordered some coffee, apple pie, and some steak. We were having food when she told me why she had come to the countryside to meet me. You know, when I heard that you had quit your job, I thought maybe you found a better job, so I never reached out to you. But last week, when I visited the manufacturing center, one of your coworkers told me that you left the job because it was getting too stressful and dangerous. Yes, that's about it. Why didn't you come directly to me? I could have looked into it and made the necessary changes. I went to the supervisor for it and he did nothing. So I figured that you'd do nothing too. How could you think that? I would never risk the lives of the employees who work at my manufacturing centers. It's my responsibility to keep them safe. Well, I just thought that you'd be just like others who don't care about the people working for them. Ouch. You've known me for such a long time. I thought you'd think better of me. Well, my bad. I guess I should have come to you before quitting the job. One more thing. What? When I found out that you had quit the job because of safety issues, I went up to your home to visit you, but it was empty. One of the neighbors told me that you and your wife are no longer together. The neighbor didn't know you moved out here, but he knew where Teresa was, so he gave me her address and I went to meet her, hoping she would know about your whereabouts. What? Did you meet Teresa? Yes. I went to her house and she told me that you moved out to the countryside, to your parents' house. How did she know? I never told her. Women talk to each other, Gerald. A lot, at times, perhaps. She also told me that it was selfish of you to quit your job. I told her that she was wrong. I told her everything about how the safety measures were not properly taken and it was becoming a dangerous place to work there. I told her that I wanted to meet you to talk about it. She seemed reluctant to accept it. Yeah, typical Teresa. She still thinks that I was being selfish when I quit the job. Yeah, well, coming straight to the point. I want you to join the manufacturing center again. Why? Well, because you'd be the best person to give a framework to the new safety guidelines, and also we need a new supervisor for the center. A new supervisor? Yes, I fired the supervisor when I got to know that he was jeopardizing the lives of the people who worked there, so we need a new one. I don't understand. Do you want me to be the supervisor? What do you think? Why would I come all the way here to meet you? We want you to be the new supervisor. Are you serious? Why would I joke about something like this? Tell me, do you accept or should I go and print a newspaper ad for the job? No, I accept. I accept. Good, now pack up your stuff, leave that lousy hardware store job, and come join us again as soon as possible. Yes, Ma, I am. Just give me 2 days. All right. We finished our meal while Gloria told me about the new paycheck. It was way more than what I was getting before, and now I was about to become the supervisor of the manufacturing center. Gloria wanted me to design new safety protocols and plans to make the workplace safer for the employees. I agreed. We finished our meal and Gloria left. 2 days later, I went back to the city and rented my old house again. Roger was happy to see me come back. I rejoined the center as the new supervisor. I gathered some of the senior employees and designed a new safety plan, guidelines, and layout for the manufacturing center. We redesigned the entire center to use the limited space we have cleverly and made the workplace safer for workers. Gloria was happy that I rejoined and made all the necessary changes. 6 months later, on a weekend, Teresa visited the house out of nowhere. I invited her in, I got her a can of beer, and we sat at the dining table. As soon as I asked her how she was, she broke down. She started crying like a baby. I asked her what had happened, and she told me that she had married Chris 4 months ago and Chris was not the person she thought he was. Chris was an alcoholic and was abusive. One of her friends in the neighborhood had told her that I was back in the city, so she came to meet me. She also knew that I had become the supervisor of the manufacturing firm. She also told me that she understood why I quit the job. Living with Chris made her realize that when I decided to quit my job, I was not being selfish and I was only looking out for my safety. She went to her parents about Chris, but her parents were not ready to help her. They told her that she couldn't just keep getting divorced and marry someone new. Now she understood how I felt when she criticized me for leaving my job. She cried more and said some things in gibberish that I couldn't understand. Finally, after a few minutes, she calmed down, apologized to me, and told me that she wanted to be with me again. I told her that I couldn't just forgive her for everything she had done. I told her that she had made her bed and now she had to sleep in it. As soon as she heard me say this, she started crying again. I also told her that I wasn't kidding when I said, "I hope the Lord gives you the strength to go through all the regret and misery." She stared at me for a while, confused, then she realized what I was talking about. I told her to leave my house and never come back again. She chose Chris over me for a better life, and now I am choosing myself over her. It has been 1 year since then. Teresa ended her marriage with Chris and moved back to her parents' house again. She is working in a cafe as a stewardess now. She often calls me and apologizes. She asks me to take her back. But everything she did is unforgivable, and I will never forget all the mean things she said to me. She's getting what she deserves, and she has to go through all of it alone. I guess she never thought a jobless wreck like me would turn out to be more than what she thought I was.